Thank you. If Eliza and I will speak, one follow me first, and Eliza perhaps next is what we had in mind, but we'll adjust given what we've heard so far, because I've learnt a great deal already, especially from Rebecca's experience in Shepparton, and she's right. It's a marathon with expansions of galleries. I know that because we started in Geelong with plans and visions for an expansion a long time ago, and have seen Shepparton move, and they're getting close to cutting the ribbon and opening that beautiful gallery on the lake this year or early next, and we might find ourselves turning a sod sometime into the future. It's a long way away. Just help out there. But today, of course, is about gallery governance and stewardship. Can I first speak briefly about what I see of the concept of governance in the arts? And I think much of this has been touched on, but many organisations in the not-for-profit sector, they provide services to specific groups. I'm thinking of the traditional, perhaps, social welfare organisations. Others provide a place and a structure for someone's pursue their interests, perhaps a sporting club, and then many others. But art galleries, however, collect and maintain an asset, the art collections, and have some arrangements, of course, with the buildings where the art is displayed. And we do that not for a specific cohort of people, but for the whole community. So the work of a not-for-profit art galleries provides significant collateral benefits to our local businesses, that is, increase their profits where not-for-profit, but increase collaterally the profits of those connected or around us. And the list of flow-on effects is long. It goes beyond the tangible into the more intangible areas, such as making our cities more livable, increasing community pride, and coalescing our communities, bringing them together. All that means governance or stewardships, I see in art galleries, carries significant responsibilities. Of course, we're responsible for our collections, but we're a cog in a bigger machine for our regional communities. So what's the Geelong Gallery's approach to governance? And in tackling that, I need to explain a little bit about how governance in the Geelong Gallery evolved, and it contrasts to what Rebecca's just outlined. And in the evolution, the first place to go is back to the very beginning, and it's timely because next year, I hope with COVID behind us, of course, next year will be the Geelong Gallery's 125th anniversary. And from a governance perspective, the Geelong Gallery began or emerged from a group of volunteer, community-minded, of course, in 1896, they were all men, and it has remained since then. It's operated as an independent organisation. There has always been a board or a committee of management, directors, whatever the term might be at the time. And the board has always been a separate legal entity. It's closely aligned with local government authorities, of course. When I say local government authorities, that's plural because the large mega council of the city of Greater Geelong is a modern phenomena, reasonably modern phenomena. And for years, the gallery had to deal with 7 very small local councils. Some of them had very little interest in the arts, and the rest of them had no interest at all. So, but things have significantly changed. But to take Rebecca's point up, councils do change. And you have to sometimes repeat things that you thought had been learnt. And council officers change, and you go through a process of setting out priorities and hoping they align. But we have gone from positions of expressed positions that expansion of the galleries was not really of any real interest, to it being a significant focus of in Geelong, that the gallery become a great gallery and that it expand from its current footprint. So the Geelong Gallery has always been and still is an independent organisation, association incorporated under the relevant state laws that we've heard from Paul, the current being the Association Incorporations Reform Act. So our bedrock foundational governance document is the Constitution and rules that must conform, as they do, to the state legislation. There was, of course, the big rewrite of rules when the Reform Act came in 2012, and that advanced our governance structures and approaches very significantly. So as an incorporated association, we're a member-based organisation. The members elect the board. The board governs the gallery, employing all the staff to manage and execute the operational tasks in accordance with board-approved policies. Those board policies these days are many and varied, and they grow by the month or by the year. They range, of course, from our acquisitions policies through to working with children, to social media policies, and ever-growing suites of human resources and so on. And board-focused policies such as our conflict of interest policy and our register of interests and assets of the board members and senior staff. So we operate on that basis. So we're not one of the other forms or structures that have been mentioned. I don't need probably to dwell on them. We're not one other that hasn't been mentioned but is a close neighbour of ours, a governor in council state appointed board under a piece of their own individual state legislation, like the National Gallery here in Victoria, or what is our near neighbour, the Geelong Performing Arts Centre, recently renamed to the Geelong Arts Centre. So they are an independent board appointed by the state government. And we're not embedded in the council, as some of the organisations are, and Rebecca's just outlined that process and how you might disengage or move away and the difficulties of all that. And we're not a hybrid incorporated organisation or a company limited by guarantee. But we did in, I think it was 2015-16, I personally did a research and prepared a paper for the board on the pros and cons of moving to our organisation to be a company limited by guarantee. The decision was to remain as we were. The decision had many unique, or was due to unique circumstances at the time, rather than, so it just didn't quite suit, rather than it being a better form or one that wasn't quite as good. And I think that takes up Paul's earlier point. You've got to make decisions that fit the circumstances at the time as to the structures. So we are what sometimes might be called an old-fashioned organisation with a structure that where someone can become a member, and of course we encourage that because it brings a relationship and it brings funds. But unlike perhaps some other organisations with membership, you get rights, significant rights to vote the board in or change the rules. So that structure has the upsides of connecting members, but it has its risks, especially in terms of continuity and stability of the board. We think we've addressed that since the 2012 rewrite of the rules. Now we have a board members, or 3 board members, retire each year and they hold office for 3 years. So on a common sort of structure of 3 by 3 years. So that's how we currently operate, and you are able to establish stability. But the connection with council is that the council has a right by our constitution to nominate a member of the board, and that remains to today. And that's a pretty important relationship, sometimes difficult for the council member as to making decisions regarding the gallery in the council while they're a member of the board. We have sort of been able to smooth any issues there through, but that's an important relationship. We get a great deal more traction with the council having a good board member.
Gerard, can I just interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah, sure.
This is great, but I'm very conscious that we've only got 5 or 10 minutes left.
Okay. Yep.
And I don't want to stop you completely in your flow, but if you could make your sort of final points,
Of course. Yeah, and then I'll move on.
Eliza to add any points that she would like to add. Thanks.
Certainly. We flow. The board's work's done principally by the subcommittees. Our board structures operate through principles that everyone knows about: accountability, integrity, legal and ethical compliance, and transparency. So we have to ensure that we move that we have a board that has diversity and that we attract good people. I think in the end, as has been said, that it's important to have the structures, and I think we do, but it's very important that you keep good people on the board and keep a healthy rotation of skilled people within the board. So we're at that point that we're bringing more skilled people onto the board, and in particular in the area of fundraising and corporate governance. But critical is that there is a corporate collegiality on the board, and that everyone is considering and only considering the advancement of the gallery, and there are no other hidden agendas.
Can I just ask you, Gerard?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Gerard, thank you. That was great. And can I just ask you on that last point you made about having really good people on the board? Geelong is a growing community.
Sure.
And it's not that far from Melbourne, so you've got a big gene pool or talent pool to draw from there if you want. How difficult do you find it is to get really good people on your board?
Well, my experience over the years has varied. It sometimes is difficult. So recently we advertised in the industry online areas, and we attracted outstanding stellar candidates for that from both Melbourne and from Geelong, but almost everyone had a Geelong connection, and we were able to get a dynamic board now, and we expect that if we need to expand again, if people move off, as they will, we'll follow the same pathway.
Yeah, thank you. Eliza, can I ask you to jump in and make any extra points you would like to do?
Sure, thank you, David. I'm mindful of the time, so I'll be as brief as possible. Echoing what Gerard has already spoken to, the board is greatly assisted by subcommittees, which the membership of which is a combination of board members as well as outside non-members. Each member of those subcommittees bringing with them their own particular skill set, which is very valuable and helps lift the load that the board members otherwise have to themselves carry. Just a few things on what we have done recently with the board. Both in 2019 and 2020, we've been undergoing our regular policy review, which, as boring as it may sound, and it can be at times, it's actually been very beneficial for the board with the assistance of Harwood Andrews providing pro bono legal assistance. It's been extremely beneficial just simply to remind board members of their obligations and what is required. But also it's exposed areas which we may otherwise have not realised were neglected, such as, for example, we created a conflict of interest policy and a new risk register that needs to be completed by the relevant members of the board and the CEO. There was also a very timely reminder of when COVID hit to provide the structure to which we could turn to see on paper the process that we needed to follow to make what was an extraordinary decision to close the gallery for the first time in its history. pointing out who the relevant decision makers were and what we needed to do, what steps needed to be taken. We've also this year commenced or committed as the board to undertaking a governance review of the board itself, which will be undertaken, I think, in 2021, next year. Whether it be internal or external, it will be interesting, and again, a good commitment to make, simply to keep in mind, to review how we do things, whether we do things well enough or not, whether we have the relevant skill set on the board and so on. The skills and makeup of the board, as Gerard has touched upon, has been refreshed with the renewal of new members. Unfortunately, what the board does do is each year we have a strategic planning meeting, which is a long meeting, which reminds us, I guess, or brings up what we need to plan for the future. And therefore, when new board members are to be appointed, we do look for particular skill sets, be it finance, accounting, or particular legal background, or relevantly fundraising. I will close on the fundraising landscape in the new normal, particularly in COVID. It's in the time of COVID, the traditional fundraising landscape is not normal as we would see it, particularly this year and possibly the rest of next year. The gallery does its own fundraising and we manage those funds in the corpus. It also does have historically a foundation, which is a separate legal entity. However, at the moment, with mutual agreement between the two organisations, that is looking to be wound up and the funds of that foundation to be transferred across to the gallery. The future of how the gallery fundraisers will be interesting to watch, and for us will be quite significant as we have plans to undertake our own significant expansion. We have undertaken some very successful online fundraising campaigns in recent year or so, which have been great to see. However, in terms of the expansion that we have in the future planned, we have created a new subcommittee last year, fundraising subcommittee, very imaginative name, which will oversee primarily the fundraising for that expansion, but it's going to have significant governance issues for the board. There will be a lot of the board members' skills that are required to assist that expansion. And as Rebecca has outlined, there is a lot of work involved in that. It is clearly a marathon and not a sprint. But it has really highlighted for us as a board, in all of the planning that we've already done, let alone what we have to come, the importance of strong relationships with the relevant stakeholders, being both the local government, with whom we have to work closely with, and at present we're collaborating with in the development of our business plan, which has constant reviews, and it has been submitted and then it comes back to us for further review, but also with the Victorian State Government, because we would not be able to undertake such a huge expansion without that assistance. And it'll be interesting to watch the recent announcement made by the National Gallery of Victoria with its significant expansion plans for its completion date of 2028, and how they go about as an institution raising funds, not only with a significant pledge from the state government, but also from patrons and the building fund that it has set up in America to assist it. So I've raced through all of those things, but it really, the importance of having good governance and a healthy collegiality on the board is extremely important, as well as a healthy and strong relationship with, and we have this at the gallery, and we're very grateful for it, with our director, deputy director, and the curatorial team, and because it is a very important relationship and for everyone to be able to work together well as a team, and to keep those miles being ticked over as we go ahead, move ahead.
Great, thank you, Eliza, and that was definitely a sprint, not a marathon. So thanks for doing that.